Welcome to the Elevate podcast, brought to you by the Registered Master Builders. Each week we explore the ideas and practices that help us get the best from our businesses, our teams and ourselves. We talk to experts, advocates and business owners in the construction industry to share their knowledge, insights and experiences to help you build a better business and enjoy a better life. Now let the business building begin.
Ankit, welcome along to the Elevate Master Builders podcast, the very first episode of the 2026 season.
Thank you for having me, Ryan. Glad to be here.
Excited for the year ahead as I spent plenty of time with my friends in New Zealand over the Christmas break. I really did genuinely feel a sense of renewed optimism. It felt 25 was a year of the bad attitude for many New Zealanders, I felt, but it did feel like things have turned a little bit. As you look ahead into 2026, what are you perceiving and what are your own thoughts on that?
Very similar. So I think you're right. Economic conditions are changing and you can feel that. And opportunities are coming, whether we wait for those opportunities or not. And I think that's an important point which businesses will have to navigate this year. We know that the confidence is lifting, and when confidence always leads to demand in our sector because we are demand driven. And we also know that in early stages of recovery, the businesses who do really well are not the ones who wait, but the ones who prepare for growth. And how do you prepare for growth? You do that by building your brand, by sharpening your sales pipeline, by having more proactive communication with prospective customers. There are a lot of people we have been talking to in the last 3 or 4 years where the sale hasn't gone across. This is a time to pick up the phone and reach out to them and see where they are in their thinking. And finally, I think it'll be very important to be quite clear on how you communicate your value and what you bring to your customers. And the businesses who focus on these things and do these things well, I believe are likely to get a larger share of the benefits from the growth which is coming.
I love that approach of not just hoping for better, but putting in action clear plans to make it happen. And as I heard you talk, Ankit, certainly made me reflect on a number of the how you can do those things in the Elevate course library. There are a number of those things around how to brand, how to do a value proposition, how to differentiate yourself. So certainly if our listeners are going, hey, that sounds great, and how do I do it? Then the Elevate course library has a lot of those things there. If you've no doubt had some contact with members for the beginning of the year, what are you hearing from on the ground?
Well, what we are seeing is quite typical for early stages of recovery. So confidence is improving faster than the workload. So we all feel positive, but that's not translating into work to the same level, which is very typical of what you see in early stages of recovery. So what that tells us is we probably hit the bottom. And we are probably heading towards what I see as a gradual recovery, not a sharp upturn. And I think that will be very important. And in my view, that's a good thing. You know, a stable recovery is better than rapid growth. We know from our previous experience, when the sector rebounds too quickly, it creates its own problems around, inflation, labor shortages, challenges with quality, and cash flow challenges. So there's a little bit of nervousness as we are talking to businesses in building and construction around this. But I think everything we are seeing indicators of a steady recovery. What that actually means is there will be a time for us to continue to focus on quality. There will be a time for us to gradually build up. So I think the message is the same. We probably are hoping for a period of sustained and stable recovery. So looking at our pipeline, having strong business fundamentals, making sure we are investing in our people and we're holding on to our good people, because I think labor and the quality of our people will become important as the recovery takes hold. Those will be important stuff. And so for a business thinking about what's made us successful in past, and how do we hold on to some of those characteristics as this growth comes in the next 12 to 18 months?
I completely agree. And what we know that not just in construction, but across all sectors, after periods of very high growth, the rate of business failure is actually higher than in the point of a downturn because of all the problems that hypergrowth can cause. So steady recovery, we like that one a lot. There are a lot of factors that not just economic, but regulatory factors that go into significant influence for our members. Ankit, what have well, in our podcast last year, we talked plenty about changes in regulatory and consenting, etc. What update do you have for the members there?
So if we take a step back from regulatory, so outcome. So what is the outcome we want for our industry? So what we really want is to lift productivity and quality over time. So if you want a thriving industry, that's the outcome we want to get. And when we think about the role regulation plays in this, regulation does not build buildings, builders do, but regulation does shape the environment in which the builders work in, and that can either help or hurt productivity. So what we have been doing is feeding back to the government on where the regulatory settings can do better around reducing costs, cutting the red tape, and lifting efficiency. And there are few regulatory changes that we believe will have an impact. And I think as businesses and building and construction, our members, we need to keep an eye out for them. So they are the voluntary consolidation of BCAs. So that will mean the councils can work together, use common data, reduce duplication, and that will improve consistency and speed of approvals, which I think will be very important for us. Proportional liability is another big change, which is coming. And I think it will reduce pressure on councils to be overly risk averse, which will help move things faster over time. Risk-based consenting is also quite important, which is simple low-risk homes should not go through the same process as complex high-risk projects. Sounds very sensible and logical. And technology, I think, has to be part of the solution. So as we are talking to our members to say we need to find ways to use more technology in our businesses, we've also been saying to the government, we need to use more technology as part of regulation. This is things like remote inspections, digital records. They can help lift both productivity and quality. So if these changes are implemented well, and we are working very closely with the government to make sure that they do, they will create much more efficient environment for us to build in. And that is how we believe we can lift both productivity and quality over time. So I think we are making right steps in the right direction, and we should start seeing movement across these four things in 2026.
Okay. And Ankit, I want to have a separate conversation around AI, but I heard you talk about technology there. So as a member organization, I'm thinking about where should I be looking to upskill myself, maybe so that I can take advantage of technology evolution in consenting processes and the like. What would be an area that maybe members could start upskilling themselves on?
So AI is very interesting. So it's gone from a space where I thought not enough businesses were talking about AI to a space where there's just so much noise and hype that you could actually end up not doing the right things. So when I think about AI, and I'll start with a statement, and I think the statement is, which is a true statement, AI is going to affect every business. And why it's going to affect every business? Because I think it's going to lower the cost and the time of doing work. That's what AI will do. And how does AI do that? It does that by automating our routine task. It helps speed up decisions, and it improves the quality of everyday output. So what that does for businesses is when you can cost and time of work can drop significantly, it changes the business model. And that is why I think no industry can ignore AI. So for building and construction, all of this will mean that AI has a potential to be transformational. And so we need to start exploring, how we use AI within our business. So I think back to the question you've asked, in my mind, there are three things we should be thinking about as a business when we start exploring AI. So the first question should be, how do we automate routine tasks in our business? What are the things in our business which are repeatable? We're repeating them day after day. And can we use AI to automate them? Because that's where the biggest productivity gains will come from our business. So I think that's one. Second one, which I think a lot of us have started using AI for, is how do we use AI to improve customer communication? And it's more than just chucking your draft email into ChatGPT and getting to formulate email. So some of the ways organizations are doing that is you can actually attach all your communication you'll be doing with the customers on AI. So when you're looking at AI, it can do a summary of customer sentiment. What are the historical conversations you've had? So you're now having a much more personalized and I call it right conversation with the customers. You're talking about the right stuff at the right time. So AI has a potential to allow us to significantly improve the quality of conversation we have. That's the second point. How do we start using AI to keep improving how we communicate with our customers? And the third one, which I think is very important, is can we use AI to improve the quality of our decisions? Something we have started looking at master builders. So, we've got all this data. Sure, we can automate some stuff, we can improve communication. What are some of the decisions we are making, and can we use AI to provide some input? And I think if we can find ways to find improvements in all those three areas across our businesses, it will give us quite a strong platform to be successful. And I think if many businesses in building and construction start doing that, we potentially have an opportunity to improve productivity across the sector.
I am so aligned with your thinking there, Ankit. And I think an opportunity is for organizations to leverage other companies' AI developments. And I've got a very real example, which I was just thinking about yesterday. I used to have quite a manual process of when an expense was generated in my own business. I would get normally an emailed receipt would come in. I'd have to download the attachment. I'd have to open my accounting software. I'd have to find the right place to upload it, and it was a very routine, mundane, not value add task. But if I summed it up over the course of the year, there was probably several hours of work in there doing that. My bank now has the ability that as soon as I get a receipt emailed to me, all I do is forward it to an email address, receipts at the bank name, and it automatically uses AI in the background to go and look at all of my banking transactions and decide which receipt this one belongs to, and then automatically attaches it to the right transaction.
Well, how amazing is that?
Amazing, like so simple. And it wasn't a piece of AI technology that I had to go and discover myself or figure out how it worked. So I think that's another opportunity, is like, if you don't consider yourself hyper technical and you're not going to go and build your own custom AI models, look around you to your suppliers and go, what AI are they making available that would help my day-to-day process as well?
Great point.
Okay. Constructive 2026. I know we had a great Constructive last year, really added a lot of value. What's the timing on Constructive 2026, firstly?
So Constructive this year is on 3rd and 4th of September in Aotea Centre in Auckland. And as you said, last year we sold out. And we have, I think, an even better lineup and topics this year. I think it'll be a phenomenal event. And I hope many businesses will join us there. But just to think about Constructive, so this is how we think about Constructive as we are formulating what we talk about. So in my view, if you want to build a successful business, and this is for business owners and business leaders, so if you want to build a successful and enduring business, you have to do two things at the same time. You have to look out to see what's coming over the horizon. And at the same time, you have to look in to keep improving how your business runs day to day. And that's exactly what we're designing the Constructive to do. It will help you understand the big picture, things like regulation, technology, disruption, and opportunities. And at the same time, it will provide you a lot of practical ideas and tools you can take straight back into your business and use. And the goal of Constructive is to help businesses not just to lift their day-to-day performance, but also help you build stronger businesses over the long term. So I think it's exciting. I think the journey we are taking with Constructive, I think it's having a real impact for leaders and businesses who are attending Constructive. And I hope many more businesses will join us this year.
Okay, I totally agree. And I feel like what Master Builders curates in that is an opportunity to discover in 2 days what if you were trying to discover yourself would take you months or years to pull together. So We talk regularly to our construction business owners about the importance of working on their business, not just in it. And Constructive is a great opportunity to work on the business where all the hard work's been done for you. You turn up and find the fruits of the labor. As you were talking, Ankit, it reminded me of a framework we use often, which is the McKinsey's 3 horizons. I'm sure you're familiar with it. And very briefly, Horizon 1 is about fixing the core. So how do we make today's business more efficient, more effective, those kind of things. So the example I talked about of the receipt management, that would be a fix the core. Second horizon is that emerging opportunities. So what might we be able to implement in the next kind of 1 to 3 years that we would find? Again, Constructive, a great place to go and observe what's starting to happen in the industry and what might you be able to adopt. And then Horizon 3 is really that future opportunity where we might be able to think more out like 10 years and what might our industry look like in that 10-year horizon. So again, such a great framework for Constructive to come along and get a dose of all 3 of those horizons as we work through. Okay. If I was to play back to you what I've heard, Ankit, is that there are some positive signs. We wouldn't say that all of the headwinds have completely disappeared, but it feels like steady growth might be there, and it's going to be best suited to the organizations that take proactive action now. Some of those things you talked about at the top about think about your brand, your competitive value proposition. How can we use technology to deliver a better customer outcome? So really taking a firm plan of action around how we can improve those things. If you were Well, firstly, let me ask, have I captured your sentiment correctly there? Anything you would like to add?
Absolutely. And I think in terms of words, so, the word I was thinking for last year was resilient. We needed to be resilient to work through it. If there was one word I want business to think about this year is proactive. Are we being proactive as conditions are changing, as growth is coming? And we are not the only one in this marketplace, right? So there's customers coming in, there are more business looking for those customers. What are the proactive steps we are taking, which puts us in front of our competition? And how do we connect with our customers and all these opportunities to take a good share of this growth which is coming? So I think it's changing our mindset from how do we hunker down right through this wave and become a resilient business to this year, how do we become a lot more proactive to take on these opportunities?
Yep, that is a fantastic summary. Ankit, I wonder if we could close out this episode. I saw a very good LinkedIn post of yours around New Year's resolutions and a slightly different approach that was taken in your household this year. Would you be open to sharing about that?
Of course. So we do New Year resolutions every year as a family. And, not all of us do it, but my kids definitely like to do it. That's a big thing on the New Year's. We all declare these are New Year resolutions. And I think most years by March, they fizz out. And we just don't even talk about them. I think if I ask my kids what their New Year resolution was in April, they probably won't even remember them, right? It's so when we were talking about New Year resolutions, I was saying to my kids, well, that just makes no sense, right? We set these resolutions, we can't even recall them 3 or 4 months down the line. What's the point? And that conversation got very deep, actually. My kids are only 18 and 13. And then we start talking about, well, actually, how do we even know we're picking the right things to do? So very quickly, we came down to 2 challenges we were facing as a family. How do we pick the right resolutions? And how do we keep up with those resolutions so we don't forget them 1 or 2 months down the line? So we tried something different. On the 1st of January, in the morning, we had this conversation, and we said we will pick what we think will be the best resolution for the other person. So we all wrote down. So I wrote down for my wife and my daughters, I think this is one thing, if you do this year, you'll have the biggest impact. So we wrote it all down. We went out for a lunch and we shared that, which is very interesting. So the resolutions my family chose for me, the goals, were not something I would have picked for myself. But when I think about it, I think those are the things are kind of my blind spots, probably will have the biggest impact. We did that, which is a very interesting exercise. Then we went on we have a wall with a whiteboard, and we wrote them down to say, these are the top 2 resolutions for all of us, and we see them every day. And the thinking was, if the resolutions are set by us as a family together, we collectively get involved in each other, success, and we set them together, and they're on the wall visible. We see them every day. Maybe this year we have a higher chance of picking good resolutions and also sticking with them, right? So early days, we're kind of in the middle of February, so still early, but this year feels more engaging. So we are having a lot more conversations. I'm telling my daughter, hey, remember, this is one of your goals, make sure you do that. Or we are becoming a little bit more supportive of each other than we have historically because our goals were very personal. So feels like this approach is working really well, but time will tell. But interesting experiment.
Indeed. And Ankit, how maybe uncomfortable or comfortable were you with the resolutions that were chosen for you?
Quite uncomfortable. So I think I have good work-life balance. I work quite hard. The first resolution, which all of them came up with, and you didn't share with them when you wrote down, they say, oh, you've got a terrible work-life balance and you need to work on your work-life balance. So that created a conversation of what I thought I had a good work-life balance versus what my family was telling me. And it realized that the perception you have of your goals and the outcomes you're getting is different to when you actually talk to people who care about you and how they see it. So that was quite an interesting goal. And I'm being brutally honest. And the second one was, I think I'm quite fit, but my family thinks my fitness has gone backwards. In the last year, I put on weight and I'm doing the same amount of fitness. So those were both quite uncomfortable goals. Another way of thinking about it is I think I have got good work-life balance, and my wife and my kids are saying, well, actually, no, I don't think you don't. And I think I'm quite fit. And they're saying, no, actually, you're not as fit as you used to be. And fitness is going backwards. But then you look back from another angle, probably those are the two areas I've got significant blind spots. And if I can make positive improvements, we'll probably have the best results for me. And it's not just for me. My family is the same. So those two goals we put for each other were quite confronting. But we are supporting each other. My kids always say, hey, Dad, you got to go out. What are your step count looking today? And my daughter went for a walk with me on the weekend because I didn't had many steps. So I think it's an interesting approach that instead of you setting your goals, it's a shared goals we are setting. And also to make the goals visible. So you see them every day. So when you see them every day, it's hard to forget them. And, so far it's progressing better than probably what we've done in the last 10 years.
Brilliant. Ankit, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being so open in your share about what you discuss with your family and your own resolutions. I think it's a fantastic approach, and for the reasons you talked about, unlocking blind spots, a really powerful thing. Would certainly encourage our listeners to try the same thing. And doesn't matter that New Year's has gone, you can make new goals and have great deep discussions with your family anytime. So use that framework and have that discussion around the dinner table this week. I think that would be greatly appreciated by many family members. Hey, thanks, Ankit. Appreciate your insights on the podcast today, and look forward to catching up with you in our next episode.
Well, thank you for having me, Ryan. It was a great conversation. Nice to talk to you.